people living in Alaska are used to strange things: endless nights, whispering winds, and forests that feel older than time itself. But nothing prepared Dr. Alina Hartman for the discovery she made in the autumn of 2024. Alina was a climate historian from Washington State University. For the past 10 years, she specialized in abrupt cooling events, sudden drops in global temperature that hit Earth during the last ice age. These events usually left hints in old ice layers, tree rings, and lake sediments. But this time, the hint wasn't just a trace. It was a warning. In September, a satellite from NOAA picked up something odd in the Brooks Range of Alaska. A massive reflective patch had appeared overnight, something that looked like fresh ice. That alone wasn't impossible, but impossible was what came next. The ice patch was nearly perfectly circular, almost 3 miles across, and it was sitting on an area where glaciers hadn't existed for more than 8,000 years. The satellite team sent the images to Alina, expecting her to say it was an error. Instead, her heartbeat doubled. This wasn't a normal ice formation. It looked like a re-emerged glacier, but not a modern one. It matched something she had seen only in ancient geological maps. A structure scientists believed had melted away around 6,200 BCE after a global cooling event, the 8.2K event, a mysterious climate crash that happened 8,200 years ago. Alina immediately arranged an expedition. The government was hesitant. The region was remote, dangerous, and unprepared for sudden scientific teams. But when Alina explained the stakes, they approved the mission. "Ma'am," a director told her, "if your theory is right, this could change how we understand climate and human history." The journey to the site wasn't easy. A charter plane carried Alina and 3 others: Dr. Malik Crowley, geochemist; Sarah Wynn, a documentary videographer; Officer Jacob Ruiz, security and wilderness specialist. As the plane roared over Alaska's frozen wilderness, the team stared out the windows. Below them stretched a land untouched by time. Mountains like jagged teeth, valleys drowned in fog, and rivers carving silver lines through ancient soil. Sarah looked at Alina. "So," she asked, "what exactly do you think we're going to find out there?" Alina hesitated. "I don't want to sound dramatic," she said quietly, "but if this glacier really is connected to the 8.2K event, then we might uncover something nobody has ever seen before. Something the world forgot." Malik chuckled. "Forgot? Like what? A prehistoric freezer?" But Alina didn't laugh. "There are legends," she said. "Old native groups in the region, Athabascans, Yupik, Inupiat. They all told stories about a sudden winter that came long after the real ice age ended. A winter that came in a single week. They said the sky dimmed, the stars blurred, and lakes froze overnight." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "A second ice age?" "Not a full one," Alina replied. a mini ice age. Scientists call it an abrupt cooling pulse. But these cultures described it as if something triggered it. Like what? Sarah asked. Alina leaned back. That's the part I never understood. After landing at a remote Alaskan station, the team switched to a helicopter. As they approached the coordinates, the temperature began to drop. The pilot frowned. That's weird, he muttered. The temperature just went from 12 degrees to -4 in 2 minutes. He tapped the thermometer again, thinking it was malfunctioning. It was. The air became heavy. A pale mist drifted across the barren ridges like a living thing. Then they saw it. The surface glimmered like a polished mirror. Sunlight bounced off it with unnatural brightness, making the entire circle glow with a cold, blue-white light. Sarah gasped. It's beautiful, but Alina wasn't looking at the shape. She was looking at what surrounded it, a wide band of cracked earth and dead vegetation circling the ice like a burnt halo. Something had killed everything around it. The helicopter landed a few hundred feet from the edge. Jacob jumped out first, scanning the area with wary eyes. Feels wrong, he muttered. Air too cold for this region, and too still. Alina knelt beside the glacier's edge and placed her gloved hand on the surface. The ice wasn't smooth. It was carved not naturally, but in layers like stacked sheets. This is prehistoric, she whispered. The structure is identical to the Laurentide microsheets that formed before the 8.2K event. Malik knelt beside her. You're sure? Absolutely. Sarah, recording everything, asked. So what does that even mean? Alina exhaled slowly. It means this ice didn't form this year. It didn't form this century. She looked up at them with a face drained of color. It came back. Malik frowned. Came back. Ice doesn't just reappear from nowhere. Yes, Alina said, unless something released it. Jacob stepped closer to them. Guys, you may want to see this. He pointed toward a small section near the center of the glacier. There was an object frozen inside the ice, long, metallic, smooth, and it was glowing faintly, as if still powered. The team stared in silence, because whatever that thing was, it was not from 8,200 years ago, and it was definitely not natural. For a moment, no one moved. The wind had stopped. The air around the glacier felt thick, like the cold had weight. Beneath the ice, maybe 10 feet down, was the strange object Jacob had spotted. Even from a distance, its surface looked smooth and unnatural, almost like brushed steel. But the shape was the real problem. It was too perfect, too straight, too clean, too engineered. Malik crouched next to Alina. Is that some kind of instrument? A probe? Alina shook her head slowly. There were no metal tools like that 8,200 years ago. Not even close. Sarah zoomed in with her camera. It looks modern. Jacob added quietly. Or not modern enough. Nobody responded. They were all trying to understand Alina stood and took a few steps back, staring at the glacier from a different angle. Something about its shape bothered her. The circle was too exact, too mathematically precise. Natural glaciers never formed perfect rings. Their edges were rough, shaped by wind and terrain. But this glacier, it was almost like it didn't care about the land beneath it. "Everyone," she said, "we need to take a core sample." Malik nodded. "I brought the portable drill." As they set up the equipment, the cold grew sharper, like tiny needles stinging their exposed skin. Jacob scanned the tree line constantly. "This place feels wrong," he muttered, "like we're being watched." Alina ignored him, though she felt it too. The silence wasn't normal. No birds, no wind, no crunch of settling ice. The drill whined to life, and Malik pushed it into the ice. The sound echoed strangely, like the glacier was hollow inside. When the drill reached about 9 feet deep, it hit something. A metallic clink rang through the air. Malik shut off the drill and pulled out the core cylinder. Inside were thin layers of ancient ice and a sliver of metal. They all leaned in. The metal wasn't rusted. It wasn't cracked. It looked almost new. Alina's voice trembled. This kind of preservation shouldn't be possible. This layer of ice is older than every pyramid on Earth. Jacob crossed his arms. "So, what are we saying? Someone 8,000 years ago dropped a high-tech object into a glacier." "No," Alina whispered. "Someone or something placed it there." As they worked, Sarah wandered a few feet away, capturing wide shots. Her boots crunched softly on the frost. When she lifted her camera, she noticed something odd near the center of the ice. A pattern, not random cracks, not erosion, but lines, intersecting lines, forming a geometric design. She stepped closer, squinting through her lens. The lines weren't scratches. They were embedded deep inside the ice, arranged almost like a map or schematic. "Alina," she called, "you need to see this." Alina hurried over. When she saw the pattern, her face went pale. "That's impossible." "What is it?" Sarah asked. "It looks like a grid, a designed layout, almost like the surface of a device." Malik joined them. "You think the entire glacier is covering a machine?" Alina swallowed hard. "Something is down there, something big." Jacob scanned the area again, uneasy. "If this thing is 10 feet down and still glowing, what's powering it?" No one had an answer. They continued exploring the perimeter of the glacier circle, hopping to find more clues. And they did, just not the kind they expected. About 30 yards from the ice, Jacob spotted deep indents in the ground, almost like old footprints. Large ones, as if something heavy had walked there after the ice appeared. But the impressions were frozen solid. "Hey," Jacob called. "Alina, come look at this." She hurried over. When she knelt down to examine the frozen tracks, her breath caught. "These aren't animal prints." Sarah frowned. "What do you mean?" "They're too wide," Alina said. "Too deep, too far apart. Whatever made these was at least 8 or 9 feet tall. Malik stepped back. No, no, no. We're not doing this. Don't tell me we're dealing with giants. Alina didn't answer. Because she couldn't, they decided to mark the prints and take scans. But before they finished, Malik noticed something unusual on the western edge of the glacier. A hole, a very small one, no bigger than a coin, carved into the ice wall. The hole was releasing a faint, mist-like vapor that curled upward and disappeared instantly. "What is that?" Sarah asked, recording carefully. Alina leaned closer, but did not touch it. "The glacier is venting." "Venting," Malik repeated, "like a machine releasing pressure." Alina nodded slowly. "Yes." Jacob's hand instinctively moved toward his holster. "So this thing is active." "It might be." They all stared at the tiny vapor stream. Quiet, controlled, intentional. Nothing about it felt natural. As evening approached, the light dimmed and temperatures dropped even more. Jacob insisted they set camp at least 200 yards away from the glacier. Alina agreed, though reluctantly. They pitched their tents, ate a quick meal, and tried to warm up. Sarah was reviewing her footage when she suddenly froze. "Alina," she whispered, "come here." Alina crawled into Sarah's tent and looked at the camera screen. Sarah paused the frame. "Look at this." The glacier's center, where the object was buried, was glowing. Not just faintly, but pulsing. A steady, rhythmic light, like a heartbeat. "It wasn't glowing this strongly earlier," Sarah said. Alina stared without blinking. "It's reacting to something." Jacob, overhearing, stepped inside the tent. "Reacting to what? Us?" "No," Alina said quietly. "To the air temperature." Malik joined them. "Why would it react to temperature?" "Because," Alina said, turning toward them with eyes full of fear. "The last time Earth suddenly cooled was during the 8.2K event. What if that event wasn't just natural? What if this device caused it?" Silence. Nobody spoke, because the implications were too big to grasp. Sarah swallowed hard. "Alina, are you saying this thing triggered a mini ice age 8,200 years ago?" Alina whispered, "I think we just found the machine that froze the earth." Jacob exhaled. "Okay, stop. That means whoever built it knew how to change the climate," Alina finished. "And maybe," Malik added slowly, "they're the reason this glacier came back." Outside, the glacier pulsed again. Once, twice, like something awakening. Something ancient. Something powerful. Something that had changed the world once and might be preparing to do it again. The night in Alaska felt endless. The team tried to sleep, but nobody really could. Every few minutes, a faint pulse of blue-white light flashed from the glacier, like a cold heartbeat. It cast long shadows across the snow, making the landscape look alive. At 2:17 a.m., Alina finally gave up trying to rest. She stepped out of her tent and looked toward the glowing ice. The temperature had dropped another 10 degrees since sunset. Her breath came out in thick clouds. Jacob was already awake, sitting by a portable heater with his rifle across his lap. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked quietly. He shook his head. "Something's wrong with this place. Animals avoid it. The air feels heavy. And that light," he nodded toward the glacier. "It's getting brighter." Alina watched as another pulse rippled across the ice, brighter than before. It wasn't random. It was timed, almost like the machine was booting up. Jacob lowered his voice. "Tell me honestly, are we safe here?" Alina hesitated. "I don't know." That was all she could say. Around 3 a.m., the others emerged to Sarah, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Malik clutching a mug of cold coffee. Malik rubbed his arms. "Alina, the temperature dropped 15 degrees in the last hour. That's not normal." Before she could answer, a loud crack echoed across the valley. Crack, CRKKKK. They all spun toward the glacier. A huge fracture had appeared along the side, like a glowing vein. The light inside pulsed again, running through the crack like electricity. Sarah instinctively lifted her camera and hit record. "Alina, what's happening?" she asked, breath trembling. Alina stepped forward carefully. "It's activating. The machine, whatever it is, it's coming online." Jacob cursed under his breath. "And we're standing right next to it." Malik pointed toward the center. "Look, the ice is thinning." He was right. The thick, ancient ice at the center was melting, fast. Steam rose where the ice liquefied, creating a glowing mist above the glacier. Sarah whispered, "It's heating from the inside." "No," Alina corrected quietly. "It's sending energy through the ice. It's trying to break free." They approached the glacier's edge, though Jacob insisted they stay at a safe distance. The once flat center now bulged upward like something beneath was pushing against it. The glowing lines Sarah filmed earlier were brighter and sharper than before. Malik set down some sensor equipment. "Alina, I'm picking up electromagnetic readings." "How strong?" He swallowed. "Stronger than anything this remote should produce. This isn't fossil or geothermal energy." He checked the readings again. "It's controlled. It's patterned. This is." "Technology," Alina finished. Sarah zoomed her lens. "But whose? Humans weren't capable of building anything like this 200 years ago." Jacob said, "Unless it wasn't humans." The group fell silent. By morning, the ice around the object had melted enough that they could see its full shape. It wasn't small. It wasn't a probe. It wasn't debris. It was a structure about the size of a school bus, half buried in ice. Metallic, smooth, flawless. No rust, no decay. Its surface glowed with faint patterns, symbols none of them recognized. "It's like a climate reactor," Alina whispered. But she knew that label wasn't right. Jacob circled the structure slowly. "This thing is sealed tight. No seams, no handles, no openings." Malik knelt beside the metal. Its temperature is constant, exactly -12 degrees. That's colder than this environment, Alina said. It's not adapting to the weather. It's controlling itself. Sarah looked across the glacier. Alina, if this machine survived for 8,200 years, then it was designed to, she finished. They carefully circled the structure, capturing angles from every side. The ice beneath their feet creaked faintly. Suddenly, Jacob held up a hand. Quiet. Everyone froze. From beneath the glacier came a deep, low hum. At first, it sounded like distant thunder, but then it grew louder, stronger, more deliberate. A vibration traveled through the ice, up through their boots, up through their bodies. Malik's voice shook. It feels like the ground is breathing. The hum shifted, became a tone, then a pulse. Alina exhaled. It's communicating. Jacob grabbed her arm. Communicating with what? She whispered. Maybe with whatever activated it 8,200 years ago. Then something happened that none of them were prepared for. The glacier, dead silent for hours, suddenly cracked open in the very center. A thin, vertical line of light appeared along the top of the machine, like an eyelid opening. Sarah gasped. Is that an opening? Alina's heart pounded. No, that's a scanning line. The beam swept slowly across the landscape, passing over trees, snow, rocks, and then it passed over them. Jacob instinctively stepped forward, putting himself between the beam and the others, but it didn't matter. The blue-white light washed over all four of them, cold and silent. Nothing happened, but the machine noticed them. Sarah stepped back, shaking. Why would it scan us? Alina didn't want to answer, but she did. To identify if we're the same species that saw it last. Malik whispered, and what if we're not? The scanning line faded. The hum quieted. But the machine wasn't done. A small panel on its surface suddenly shifted just a fraction of an inch, enough to reveal a sliver of darkness beneath. Alina, Jacob said nervously, it's opening. She stared at the shifting metal. No, it's unlocking. The machine unlocked with a soft click that echoed across the glacier. Then a deep thud came from below them. Not from the machine, from the ice beneath their feet. Malik stumbled. Did you feel that? The ground vibrated again. Harder, a loud cracking sound cut through the air. A giant fissure shot across the glacier floor toward them. Back, Jacob shouted, move. They sprinted across the ice, slipping and sliding. The fissure chased them like a living creature. It split open behind them, spraying frozen shards into the air. When they reached solid ground, Jacob turned around and froze. The fissure had opened into a deep chasm beneath the machine. Something was inside, something massive. Sarah raised her trembling camera. Alina, what are we looking at? Alina stepped forward slowly, because inside the chasm, embedded deep in the ice, was a second metallic shape. Not a machine, not a device, A pod, human-sized, alien-shaped, completely sealed, and on its surface, faintly glowing, a symbol, a symbol Alina had seen once before, carved into ancient Alaskan stone tablets that predated modern history. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "This isn't just a machine." She pointed to the pod. This is what it was protecting. The sunlight was weak and cold as the team stared down into the newly opened chasm. The pod inside the ice wasn't large, maybe the length of a grown adult, but its shape was disturbing. Too smooth, too perfect, almost like something meant to hold life. Sarah zoomed her camera slowly. "Alina, is that thing a container?" Alina didn't answer at first. She climbed closer to the edge, kneeling on the frozen ground to get a better look. The pod's surface shimmered with a faint bluish glow, the same color the machine emitted. Malik wiped his forehead. "That symbol, I swear I've seen it before." Alina nodded. "You have. I showed you those old photos from the Athabascan caves last year. The stone carvings had similar markings. The ones experts believed were just decorative." Jacob frowned. "Wait, those were dated what, 5,000 years old?" 5 to 6,000, Alina said slowly. But the style looked much older. Older than the tribes themselves. Sarah's camera shook in her hands. "Are you saying this thing is connected to early native cultures?" Alina swallowed. "I think the tribes remembered something their ancestors saw. A brightness, a cold, a sleeping figure beneath the ice." Jacob exhaled sharply. "This thing's been down there for how long?" Alina looked at the pod again. "At least 8,200 years." They took cautious steps along the rim of the chasm, observing the pod from different angles. The ice around it was unusually clear, almost glass-like. It wasn't melting from the machine's heat. If anything, it seemed intentionally preserved. Malik pointed to a faint pattern around the pod's surface. "The ice here didn't form naturally. See these rings? They're shaped like containment lines, almost like the ice itself is part of the device." Jacob shook his head. "Ice as a lock? That's insane." Alina stood. "No, brilliant. Ice is stable, predictable, and if engineered correctly, it can keep something preserved for thousands of years." Sarah whispered, "But why would anyone lock something like this in ice?" Alina didn't answer, because deep inside, she already had a theory, a terrifying one. The hum from the large machine above them shifted slightly, becoming lower and steadier, like a motor stabilizing. It wasn't random anymore. It had a rhythm. The machine wasn't shutting down. It was preparing. Jacob frowned. "Is that louder?" "Yes," Malik said, checking the scanner. "Energy output just jumped by 30%. The machine is powering up." Alina felt the hair on her arms rise. "It's trying to thaw the pod." Sarah's voice trembled. "Why now? Why not thousands of years ago?" Alina stared at the glacier, thinking. The 8.2K event happened during a time of global warming. Temperatures were rising fast back then, just like today. Maybe the machine was programmed to activate when Earth reached a similar temperature. Malik froze. You're saying this thing woke up because of climate change? Alina nodded. Yes. Jacob muttered. Fantastic. We warmed the planet and woke up an ancient device. Suddenly, a sharp metallic ping echoed from the chasm. Everyone turned. The pod had shifted, just slightly, but enough. A thin fracture zigzagged across the ice surrounding it. Steam rose from around the pod, and glowing blue lines spread across its surface, lighting up like veins. Sarah whispered, "It's alive." Alina looked at her sharply. "It's not alive. It's activating. Big difference." Another ping cut her off. A section of ice cracked. A small piece fell and shattered at the bottom of the chasm. More glowing lines lit up. The pod's surface was moving, rippling, almost like breathing. Jacob immediately jumped back from the edge. Nope, nope, that's enough for me. Malik grabbed his arm. Jacob, wait. No, Jacob said firmly. I've seen enough weird stuff in the military. Pods that wake up. Beings sealed for millennia. Nope. Alina spoke carefully. Jacob, if that pod contains a life form, we need to. Do what? He snapped. Let it out. Silence, because none of them knew the right answer. Sarah lowered her camera slowly. Maybe it's something peaceful. Jacob stared at her. Since when do peaceful things get locked underground inside a machine that can freeze the earth? Sarah couldn't argue. Neither could Alina. Another vibration shook the ground. The pod pulsed with blinding blue light. A beam shot upward, straight to the machine above. Malik stumbled backward. It's connecting. The pod and the machine are communicating. Alina's eyes widened. This wasn't just a device. It's a system, a containment system. Jacob pointed at the machine. So, what's the big one's job? To hold the ice in place. Alina pointed at the pod. And this one's job is what's inside that pod. Sarah's voice cracked. Meaning, the 8.2K event wasn't accidental. Alina nodded grimly. It was a security measure. Malik stared at her. To freeze whatever's in that pod. Jacob whispered. Then why is it waking up now? Alina looked toward the sky. Clouds spiraling unnaturally over the glacier. Because the machine detected a global temperature threshold. It thinks the world is warm enough again that whatever's inside can survive. Sarah's voice shook, or escape. Without warning, the ground began to shake violently. The ice around the pod cracked open like shattered glass. Blue-white light blasted upward. Jacob yelled, "Everyone back, move." They ran across the snow as the glacier surface split open behind them. The machine in the center lifted, not much, but enough to show that it was separating from the ice. Steam exploded from the vents. Sparks shot outward in arcs of bright light. Malik screamed over the noise. We need to get back to the helicopter. It's too dangerous to fly, Jacob shouted. Winds unstable. The machine emitted a deep, booming sound, like a horn, that vibrated in their bones. The pod below glowed brighter than the sun. Lines on its surface rearranged into a pattern, a symbol. Alina recognized it instantly. It was the same symbol the Athabascan elders called the sleeper who brings cold, a figure from their oldest myths, a figure they claimed caused a winter that almost ended early humanity. Alina stepped backward, whispering to herself, "We woke up the thing that froze the earth." Sarah grabbed her arm. "Alina, look." The pod shell cracked, just slightly, releasing a blinding beam of light through the fracture. Inside, something moved. A hand, long, thin, metallic looking, and definitely not human. The machine above roared to life, sounding like a giant engine. Malik whispered, "It's opening." Jacob raised his rifle. Alina shook her head. "No, don't." Jacob did lower the gun. "If that thing comes out." And then the pod emitted a sound, a slow, rising hum, a breathing sound, a waking sound. Alina whispered, "It's alive." Amal's discovery changed everything. Her final scans revealed something that no one had expected: structures. Not natural caves, not glacial cracks, but geometric shapes carved into the ice sheet itself. Perfect angles, straight corridors, something only intelligent hands could build. She sent the data to Maya with trembling fingers. Maya didn't hesitate. "We're going," she told the team. "Whatever is under Greenland, we have to see it." The world thought they were simply collecting more ice cores. Only 6 people knew the real mission: Maya, Liam, Dr. Kyra, Amal, and 2 elite rescue climbers. They arrived at a remote region of central Greenland, far from the Ice Core research station. No footprints, no satellite traffic, no tracks except wind-made ones. The moment they dug through the upper layer of snow, the ice below revealed a faint blue glow, like something alive was shining beneath it. Liam knelt carefully. "This isn't natural glow. This is something inside the ice." Maya nodded. "We melt our way down, slow, controlled." They worked hour after hour until their drill hit empty space. A hollow chamber, a massive one. When the ice finally broke open, Maya almost lost her footing. Their headlamps lit up an impossible scene: a giant room carved into crystal ice, large enough to fit a small skyscraper. Smooth walls, engravings, patterns like ancient writing. Amal whispered, "Someone built this. Thousands of years before humans even built cities." The air inside wasn't frozen solid. It was strangely breathable, cold, but not deadly. Like the chamber had been sealed for millennia, keeping everything preserved. They tied ropes and descended into the chamber. Their footsteps echoed, and then they saw them. Not bodies, not bones, but shapes humanoid outlines carved directly into the walls, like statues made of ice. Tall figures, elongated arms, smooth faces with no eyes. Their hands rested on circular symbols carved into the ice floor. Liam walked around one. They looked like they were waiting. Dr. Kyra took pictures, measured everything, and shook her head in disbelief. These carvings are at least 9,000 years old, maybe older. Whoever made this came long before the 8.2K event. Maya studied the symbols, circles within circles, spirals, lines extending outward like rays. She didn't know why, but they felt like warnings. Amal set up the resonance scanner. I'm detecting massive heat signatures under this chamber, deep beneath. She frowned. Something is still warm. After 8,000 years. Warm, Maya repeated. Under 2 miles of ice. Amal nodded slowly, fear growing in her eyes. Either it's a natural geothermal vent. She hesitated. Or someone built a power source down there. The carvings on the floor began making sense now. Maps, diagrams, perhaps instructions, or warnings. The second chamber. They found a tunnel leading downward. It was so smooth it looked melted, not carved. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. After 30 minutes of careful descent, they stepped into the second chamber and immediately froze. Floating in the center of the room was a giant crystal obelisk, perfectly suspended, not touching the floor or ceiling. A soft, pulsing light glowed from inside it, beating like a slow heart. This is technology, Liam whispered. Old technology, ancient technology. Dr. Kyra moved closer. No, look at the patterns. This is some form of energy storage. Maybe a battery. Or, her voice faltered, a stabilizer. Maya felt her own heartbeat sinking with the pulsing glow. What does it stabilize? Kyra looked at the readings. Temperature. Amal went pale. Maya, if this thing is balancing geothermal heat under the ice, then Maya finished the sentence for her. It kept the ice sheet stable. Amal nodded. Yes, and if this ancient device ever fails, the heat beneath Greenland could melt everything. Fast. Liam stepped back. You're telling me this thing has been running for at least 8,000 years. Kyra nodded, probably longer. Maya suddenly remembered the strange warming pattern Amal had found. It wasn't natural warming. It wasn't a volcanic vent. It was this, slowing down. 8,000 years ago, the 8.2K event caused global chaos. A sudden flood, a temperature drop, massive storms. What if it wasn't natural? What if the ancient stabilizer had malfunctioned back then? The past RETURNS. Dr. Kyra pointed to a long crack running along the bottom of the floating obelisk. Ice had formed around the fissure, but heat was slowly melting it. This crack is new, she said, maybe a few decades old. Maya felt her throat tightening. So the stabilizer is breaking again. Amal checked the readings. Her hands shook. Maya, if this device fails completely, we don't get centuries. We don't get decades. She swallowed hard. It could trigger another sudden melt, another global disaster. And this time, the world has billions of people on it. Silence filled the chamber. Liam exhaled. So these ice beings, whoever they were, built this to hold back a disaster. Kyra nodded. Or to fix one they accidentally caused. Amal added. And when they couldn't repair it, they sealed everything under ice. Maya stared at the floating crystal, glowing like a giant heartbeat. Can we fix it? She asked. Amal shook her head. This technology is beyond anything we have. Even touching it might be dangerous. The truth hit all of them at once. The 8.2K event wasn't just a natural climate shift. It was the aftershock of a failing ancient machine. And now it was failing again. The final markings. Before leaving, Maya studied the last chamber symbols again. They weren't random. They were instructions, like a manual carved in ice. At the center, surrounded by spirals, was a single shape, a continent. Not Europe, not Africa, not Asia, but North America. Liam leaned closer. Why America? Kyra replied softly. Because whatever happened 8,000 years ago, whatever civilization existed here, started in North America. Not the Middle East, not Africa, not Asia. Amal added, these beings, or this ancient culture, might have lived right here long before humans. Maya stared at the symbol in silence. A forgotten ice age, a forgotten civilization, a forgotten disaster, and now a forgotten machine dying once more. Who built it? As they ascended back to the surface, Maya kept replaying the carvings in her mind. The tall, humanoid figures, the smooth, eyeless faces, the long hands pressing against the spirals. Nothing about them resembled humans. Nothing about the architecture matched human history. If these beings predated the 8.2K event, if they lived on North America long before any known civilization, if they built machines inside glaciers, then everything America believed about its ancient past was wrong. Completely wrong. The truth they couldn't share. When they reached the surface, Maya made the hardest choice of her career. She ordered every team member to swear confidentiality. This was not something politicians should hear, not something the media should twist, not something the public should panic over. The team agreed, but as Maya looked over the endless blanket of ice, she knew silence was temporary. Sooner or later, the stabilizer would fail completely. And when it did, the world wouldn't be ready. Amal approached her quietly. Maya, if this device was built 8,000 years ago, then those builders knew something we don't. Maya nodded slowly. And what if, Amal continued, they left more structures behind? More clues. Maybe someone on this continent still remembers something of them. Maya didn't answer, but her thoughts were already racing. North America was full of strange legends, Stories of frost giants, ice spirits, tall, pale beings that lived inside mountains. Stories most people ignored. What if those legends weren't myths? What if they were memories? Amal's discovery changed everything. Her final scans revealed something that no one had expected: structures. Not natural caves, not glacial cracks, but geometric shapes carved into the ice sheet itself. Perfect angles, straight corridors, something only intelligent hands could build. She sent the data to Maya with trembling fingers. Maya didn't hesitate. "We're going," she told the team. "Whatever is under Greenland, we have to see it." The world thought they were simply collecting more ice cores. Only 6 people knew the real mission: Maya, Liam, Dr. Kyra, Amal, and 2 elite rescue climbers. They arrived at a remote region of central Greenland, far from the ice core research station. No footprints, no satellite traffic, no tracks except wind-made ones. The moment they dug through the upper layer of snow, the ice below revealed a faint blue glow, like something alive was shining beneath it. Liam knelt carefully. "This isn't natural glow. This is something inside the ice." Maya nodded. "We melt our way down, slow, controlled." They worked hour after hour until their drill hit empty space. A hollow chamber, a massive one. When the ice finally broke open, Maya almost lost her footing. Their headlamps lit up an impossible scene: a giant room carved into crystal ice, large enough to fit a small skyscraper. Smooth walls, engravings, patterns like ancient writing. Amal whispered, "Someone built this thousands of years before humans even built cities." The air inside wasn't frozen solid. It was strangely breathable, cold, but not deadly. Like the chamber had been sealed for millennia, keeping everything preserved. They tied ropes and descended into the chamber. Their footsteps echoed, and then they saw them. Not bodies, not bones, but shapes, humanoid outlines carved directly into the walls, like statues made of ice. Tall figures, elongated arms, smooth faces with no eyes. Their hands rested on circular symbols carved into the ice floor. Liam walked around one. They looked like they were waiting. Dr. Kyra took pictures, measured everything, and shook her head in disbelief. "These carvings are at least 9,000 years old, maybe older. Whoever made this came long before the 8.2K event." Maya studied the symbols: circles within circles, spirals, lines extending outward like rays. She didn't know why, but they felt like warnings. Amal set up the resonance scanner. "I'm detecting massive heat signatures under this chamber, deep beneath." She frowned. "Something is still warm. After 8,000 years. Warm," Maya repeated. "Under 2 miles of ice." Amal nodded slowly, fear growing in her eyes. "Either it's a natural geothermal vent," she hesitated, "or someone built a power source down there." The carvings on the floor began making sense now: maps, diagrams, perhaps instructions, or warnings. The second chamber. They found a tunnel leading downward. It was so smooth it looked melted, not carved. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. After 30 minutes of careful descent, they stepped into the second chamber and immediately froze. Floating in the center of the room was a giant crystal obelisk, perfectly suspended, not touching the floor or ceiling. A soft, pulsing light glowed from inside it, beating like a slow heart. This is technology, Liam whispered. Old technology, ancient technology. Dr. Kyra moved closer. No, look at the patterns. This is some form of energy storage, maybe a battery, or, her voice faltered, a stabilizer. Maya felt her own heartbeat sinking with the pulsing glow. What does it stabilize? Kyra looked at the readings. Temperature. Amal went pale. Maya, if this thing is balancing geothermal heat under the ice, then Maya finished the sentence for her. It kept the ice sheet stable. Amal nodded. Yes, and if this ancient device ever fails, the heat beneath Greenland could melt everything. Fast. Liam stepped back. You're telling me this thing has been running for at least 8,000 years? Kyra nodded, probably longer. Maya suddenly remembered the strange warming pattern Amal had found. It wasn't natural warming. It wasn't a volcanic vent. It was this, slowing down. 8,000 years ago, the 8.2K event caused global chaos. A sudden flood, a temperature drop, massive storms. What if it wasn't natural? What if the ancient stabilizer had malfunctioned back then? The past RETURNS. Dr. Kyra pointed to a long crack running along the bottom of the floating obelisk. Ice had formed around the fissure, but heat was slowly melting it. This crack is new, she said, maybe a few decades old. Maya felt her throat tightening. So the stabilizer is breaking again. Amal checked the readings. Her hands shook. Maya, if this device fails completely, we don't get centuries. We don't get decades. She swallowed hard. It could trigger another sudden melt, another global disaster. And this time, the world has billions of people on it. Silence filled the chamber. Liam exhaled. So these ice beings, whoever they were, built this to hold back a disaster. Kyra nodded. Or to fix one they accidentally caused. Amal added, and when they couldn't repair it, they sealed everything under ice. Maya stared at the floating crystal, glowing like a giant heartbeat. Can we fix it? She asked. Amal shook her head. This technology is beyond anything we have. Even touching it might be dangerous. The truth hit all of them at once. The 8.2K event wasn't just a natural climate shift. It was the aftershock of a failing ancient machine. And now it was failing again. The final markings. Before leaving, Maya studied the last chamber symbols again. They weren't random. They were instructions, like a manual carved in ice. At the center surrounded by spirals, was a single shape, a continent. Not Europe, not Africa, not Asia, but North America. Liam leaned closer. Why America? Kyra replied softly. Because whatever happened 8,000 years ago, whatever civilization existed here, started in North America. Not the Middle East, not Africa, not Asia. Amal added, these beings, or this ancient culture, might have lived right here long before humans. Maya stared at the symbol in silence. A forgotten ice age, a forgotten civilization, a forgotten disaster, and now a forgotten machine dying once more. Who built it? As they ascended back to the surface, Maya kept replaying the carvings in her mind. The tall, humanoid figures, the smooth, eyeless faces, the long hands pressing against the spirals. Nothing about them resembled humans. Nothing about the architecture matched human history. If these beings predated the 8.2K event, if they lived on North America long before any known civilization, if they built machines inside glaciers, then everything America believed about its ancient past was wrong. Completely wrong. The truth they couldn't share. When they reached the surface, Maya made the hardest choice of her career. She ordered every team member to swear confidentiality. This was not something politicians should hear, not something the media should twist, not something the public should panic over. The team agreed, but as Maya looked over the endless blanket of ice, she knew silence was temporary. Sooner or later, the stabilizer would fail completely, and when it did, the world wouldn't be ready. Amal approached her quietly. Maya, if this device was built 8,000 years ago, then those builders knew something we don't. Maya nodded slowly. And what if, Amal continued, they left more structures behind, more clues? Maybe someone on this continent still remembers something of them. Maya didn't answer, but her thoughts were already racing. North America was full of strange legends, stories of frost giants, ice spirits, tall, pale beings that lived inside mountains, stories most people ignored. What if those legends weren't myths? What if they were memories? Part 6 or Part 7 will continue the mystery and reveal deeper truths about the ancient civilization, the stabilizer, and the coming threat. Just say Part 6 and I'll generate the next 1,000-word chapter. You said Part 6. ChatGPT said, here is Part 6 of your original, fresh, never posted before story. 1,000 words. Simple English. Same tone, new ideas. No repetition. Part 6. The return of the ice builders. For several days after returning from Greenland, Maya felt like she was living in two worlds. One was normal emails, meetings, weather reports, and quiet offices. The other was the world beneath the ice. Giant frozen chambers, glowing crystals, and the silent outlines of beings who lived long before humans. That second world refused to leave her mind. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't focus. And every time she blinked, she saw the floating obelisk pulsing like a heart that was slowing down. A dying heart, a dying machine, a dying warning. The unreported spikes. Emil rushed into Maya's office one morning, carrying a tablet. Maya, it's happening again. The heat spikes. Maya stood up so quickly, she knocked her coffee over. Where? Right under the stabilizer chamber. Same area, but the numbers are higher, a lot higher. Maya scanned the data. Temperatures had jumped 3 degrees in the last 24 hours. That's not natural, she whispered. This is the stabilizer losing strength. Amal nodded, her face pale. But there's something stranger, she said. The heat spike wasn't constant. It came in waves, like something is trying to correct itself. Maya froze. Are you saying the stabilizer is trying to repair? Amal swallowed. Yes, or something else is trying to fix it. The message under the ice. Liam joined them, carrying a printed cryptographic report. You need to see this, he said quietly. Our AI tried decoding the symbols from the chamber wall. Maya frowned. You translated them. Partly, not all. But 2 lines came through very clearly. He handed her the printout. The earth remembers. When the sky cracks, follow the cold light. Maya read the lines again. Simple words, but frightening. What does it mean? She asked. Liam shook his head. Not sure, but the mention of the sky cracking might mean a massive atmosphere event. Maybe storms, maybe something bigger. Amal added, and follow the cold light. It could refer to the glowing stabilizer. Maybe it's a guide, or maybe there are more like it. Maya felt a chill. If there are more stabilizers, they might all be failing at the same time. A visitor from Alaska. That evening, Maya received a call from a man she had never spoken to. He identified himself as Chief Nathan Greyfeather, leader of a remote Alaskan tribal council. His voice was calm, but heavy with urgency. I hear you've been studying something under the Greenland ice, he said. Maya stiffened. No such information has been made public. Who told you? No one told me, he replied. Our people have stories. Old stories. Very old. Passed from fathers to sons for thousands of years. Maya didn't speak. Chief Nathan continued. The legends say the ice will tremble when the silent builders begin to wake. Maya's heart pounded. Silent builders. Yes, he said, tall beings, pale as snow. They shaped mountains. They carved rivers. And when the world grew too warm, they sealed themselves under ice. Maya knew these could not be coincidences. What else do your legends say? She whispered. They say the builders left a message for the future. A message carved in the cold stone of Denali. Denali, the tallest mountain in North America. Chief Nathan continued. My people have protected that place for centuries. But now the ice is melting faster. We think the message has reemerged. Maya's hand shook. Can we see it? Yes, he said, if you come with respect, if you come prepared. Prepared for what? Nathan paused. For the truth your world has forgotten. Denali's secret. 2 days later, Maya, Liam, and Amal flew to Alaska. Chief Nathan greeted them at a small landing strip, far from any city. His dark eyes held knowledge that felt ancient. You're late, he said softly. The mountain is changing. They hiked through a forest of frozen trees until they reached a smooth cliff face at Denali's base. The snow around it had melted in a perfect circle, and on the cliff were carvings, the same spirals, the same elongated figures, the same symbols from Greenland. Amal gasped. This is the same writing, but older, much older. Nathan nodded. My ancestors said these beings once lived here. They shaped the land before the first humans crossed into America. Maya traced the largest carving with her glove, a map of North America, but it looked different, more rivers, larger glaciers, deeper coastlines. This was America before the last ice age. Then she noticed something she had not seen in Greenland. A star symbol carved above the continent, not in the sky, but on the ground, right over Alaska. What is that? Liam asked. Nathan answered quietly. The first landing place of the builders. Maya felt her breath stop. Landing, she repeated. Yes, he said calmly. My people always believed they came from the sky. They weren't gods. They weren't spirits. They were travelers of the cold. Amal stared at the symbols. This changes everything. Nathan nodded once. Then you must understand the final part. He guided them to a second carving, a giant circle broken in the middle. Under it, the symbols formed a line. When the heart fails, the sea will rise. Amal covered her mouth. That's the stabilizer. If it dies, the ice melts fast, massive floods. Nathan nodded. Our ancestors called it the heart of winter. They said it was never meant to last forever, only long enough for the world to recover. Maya felt a cold weight settle inside her. How long do we have? Nathan inhaled slowly. Not long. The mountain has begun to shake. The heart is weakening, and when it stops, he looked toward the sky. The world you know will drown. The night the mountain spoke. They camped near the cliff that night. Cold winds rushed down the mountain. Snow danced in the moonlight. At midnight, a deep rumble shook the ground. Not thunder, not an avalanche, but something alive. The mountain groaned like a giant, waking after a long sleep. Nathan whispered, It has begun. Maya scrambled out of her tent. The cliff carvings glowed faintly in the moonlight, blue, the same color as the stabilizer. Amal stared at the mountain peak. The resonance from Greenland, it's echoing here. Like the builders triggered something, or something triggered itself. Liam added, It's like an ancient network, waking up. Another rumble, stronger this time. Snow rolled down the mountain in soft waves. Then Maya saw it. At the top of Denali, A thin beam of blue light shot into the sky like a signal. Nathan fell to his knees. The cold light, he whispered. The prophecy, it's calling someone. Maya stared at the sky in shock. Whatever was happening, the builders were not gone. They were returning. The beam of blue light shooting from Denali didn't fade. It kept rising higher and higher until it pierced the clouds like a needle of ice. Maya felt her chest tighten. What is it doing? She whispered. Nathan didn't answer at first. He stared at the mountain with a mix of fear and reverence. Finally, he spoke. It is calling, he said quietly. Calling the ones who built the hearts of winter. Liam shook his head. You think they're still alive? Nathan didn't look away. My people say the builders never die like humans. They sleep. They wait. And when the earth warms too much, they return to reset the balance. Emil stepped back. You're telling us this is deliberate. That the world warming, the stabilizer failing, this signal, is part of a cycle, Nathan finished. A cycle older than all human history. Maya stared at the glowing beam again. If the builders were truly coming back, what did that mean for humanity? The sky begins to crack. An hour later, the wind changed. It became sharp, metallic, cold in a way Maya had never felt in her life, as if the air itself had been thinned and replaced. Amal checked her instruments. This is impossible, she said, voice trembling. The upper atmosphere just dropped by nearly 15 degrees. The jet stream is collapsing. Thunder rolled overhead. But the sky above Denali didn't produce a flash of lightning. Instead, it produced cracks, thin glowing fractures stretching across the clouds like shattered glass. Liam stumbled backward. Those are not natural weather patterns. Maya whispered the line from the Greenland wall. When the sky cracks, follow the cold light. Her pulse pounded in her ears. It's happening, she said. This is the event they warned about. Another fracture split open the clouds. Blue light bled through it. The same glowing shade as the stabilizer crystal. Nathan inhaled slowly. They're here. Something braks through. A circular opening formed in the center of the cracked sky. Silent, slow, massive, and from that hole, something descended. Maya shielded her eyes. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a meteor. It was a structure, a floating geometric formation made of ice and stone, rotating like a colossal snowflake. Dozens of thin energy beams linked its edges, forming a lattice of glowing symbols. Amal whispered, That's architecture. Not natural, not military, not human. Nathan nodded. The builders return in their sky temple. The structure hovered above Denali, casting a shimmering shadow over the mountain. Snow on the ground began to swirl upward, as if gravity no longer obeyed the earth. Liam checked his scanner. I'm reading a frequency, the same one as the stabilizer. They're sinking. The mountain rumbled, not collapsing, responding, communicating. The builder's message, a beam of light shot down from the floating structure, striking the carvings on Denali's cliff. The symbols lit up like stars, each one glowing brighter until the whole mountain looked alive. Then a voice, not heard with ears, but inside their minds, spoke. It was cold, calm, and ancient. Not English, not any human language. Yet somehow Maya understood every word. We return to restore what was broken. The heart weakens, the waters rise. Humans have forgotten the covenant, but the earth remembers. Amal stumbled backward, tears in her eyes. They're communicating with us, telepathically. Nathan bowed his head. They are speaking to the protectors of the mountain. Maya swallowed hard. What covenant? What did we forget? The voice grew louder. We preserved your world when fire consumed the sky. We stabilized the ice when the oceans threatened to swallow your lands. We slowed time for the earth to heal. But now the balance is broken. Maya felt cold rush up her spine. The 8.2K event. The ice age cycles. The mysterious cooling. It wasn't nature alone. The builders did it. A choice for humanity. The beam widened. A platform of glowing light formed in front of the cliff. Nathan nudged Maya gently. They want you. Me, she asked, trembling. Yes, Nathan said. You found the heart under Greenland. You followed the cold light. The builders chose you as the listener. Maya stepped onto the platform. Instantly, she was lifted upward slowly, gently, like floating on frozen air. Amal reached for her. But Maya was already rising. The platform carried her into the glowing underside of the sky structure. Ice crystals drifted around her like stars. The air hummed with energy. Then she stood inside the temple. Its walls were transparent layers of rotating ice, showing the earth below as if she were standing in the sky itself. In front of her, a tall silhouette materialized. Thin, graceful, pale blue skin with patterns like frozen lightning. A builder, but its face was calm, peaceful, not threatening. It did not speak aloud. Its voice echoed in her mind. Child of the warm world, your species stands at a crossroads. The heart beneath the ice weakens. It was made for one purpose, to give humanity time. Maya's voice shook. Time for what? Time to learn. Time to grow. Time to stop destroying the balance. The builder stepped closer, light shimmering from its body. Now we ask, should the heart be restored or allowed to die? Maya's breath stopped. What happens if it dies? She whispered. The builder lowered its glowing eyes. The ancient floods will return. The seas will rise. The world will begin again. Maya swallowed. And if you restore it, humanity receives one more cycle, one more chance to choose balance. Maya realized the impossible truth. The builders were not controlling humanity. They were giving humanity a choice. She inhaled slowly. What must I do? The builder reached out its hand. Touch the heartstone. Choose life or reset. The earth will obey your choice. Maya hesitated. The fate of the entire world, its future, its second chance, all of it rested in her hand. The final decision. Down below, Amal, Liam, and Nathan watched as the sky temple pulsed brighter. Liam whispered, "She has to decide for all of us." Amal squeezed her eyes shut. "Come on, Maya, choose hope." Inside the temple, Maya placed her hand on the glowing heartstone. Images flashed through her mind. Cities, forests, oceans, storms, children, animals, mountains. She felt the weight of every life. Then she whispered her decision. The heartstone exploded with light, a shockwave of blue energy rushing across the sky, racing toward Greenland, toward the failing stabilizer, toward the entire world. The sky temple vibrated like a ringing bell. Maya was lowered gently back toward the ground. Nathan caught her as she landed. The cracks in the sky sealed. The cold wind calmed. The beam faded. Then, from the far north, a deep sound rolled across the earth. The sound of the stabilizer restarting. Amal gasped. "You did it. The heart is alive again." Maya looked up at the sky as the temple dissolved into shimmering dust. "They gave us one more chance," she whispered. "One last chance." Epilogue, the world, REMBRS. Weeks later, the temperatures stabilized. Storm patterns calmed. Rising sea levels began to slow. Governments around the world secretly received encrypted reports about the Greenland anomaly. But none knew the full truth. Only Maya, Amal, Liam, and Chief Nathan understood what really happened. Humanity was saved by a choice to live, a choice to remember the forgotten ice age, a choice to respect the earth the builders had once protected. And every night, Maya looked toward the northern sky. Sometimes, just for a moment, she thought she saw a faint blue shimmer, as if the builders were still watching, waiting for humanity's answer.